Now my mic's not on. Yeah, sorry guys. Welcome to another week of Q&A. What's up? How's it going? A little bit of a rough start today. My computer crashed right as I hit stream on OBS. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. And as you saw in my comment earlier, I'm just gonna have to buy another motherboard pretty soon. So yeah, that's happening because this is obnoxious. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about stuff that you guys are interested in. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Let's see. Scotty Dog says, "Yo, all good on my end. What's up, dude? How's it going?" Rain Sweat says, "Greetings from France. My week went great. Excellent, dude. Good to hear that. Good. Thanks for coming by, man." Aaron Williams, what's up, dude? Willems, not Williams. Willems. Lear, how's it going, dude? Good to see you. Mr. Kiani, what's up? Carl, how's it going? Matthias, what's up? Aaron Williams says the usual suspects. Yeah. No, I love that we have like a regular crew. Like I see names that have been like popping up for the past like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or whatever, however long I've been doing this. It's been great. I love it. It's wonderful. Sedora, what's up, dude? Devin West, what's up, dude? Haven't seen your name in a little bit, I think. How's it going? Good to see you. Lear says, I got paid today, so I'll probably be broke by the weekend. I feel it. Like, I got my stimulus check, and I'm just looking at things that I can buy. I'm like, yes. Like, this Hoppus guitar, for instance. I'm definitely going to get that pretty soon. Aaron Williams says, I've been eyeballing another Strandberg. It's been mocking me from my cart for weeks. Dude, yes. I really like the Strandbergs. I didn't even get a chance to play one until the NAMM show, actually, when we were demoing the Quad Cortex. And I love the Strandberg guitars. They're fantastic. Yeah, Matthias says, have you tried turning it off and on again? And yeah, that was the technical problems. As I was restarting my computer, it went blue screen of death, and then I'm like, I'm kind of over it. I see who said it. Matthias says you might be better off with an iMac, which you're not wrong. I mean, like, as far as streaming is concerned, iMacs are generally more stable, but there are inherent problems with my setup as is, because what happens is I ordered this computer online, and whoever manufactured it, the CyberPower PC, I think, put way too much thermal paste on the processor. When it was installed, all that paste dripped across the motherboard and fried a bunch of the circuits. So it's functioning okay right now, but it does occasionally crash, which is frustrating to say the least. So I'm gonna have to start looking into some ways I can fix that. Let's see. Just looking through the chat real quick. Oh, it just jumped. All right, cool. Aaron DeVoy says, Ola England's signature plugin, question mark? Make it happen. I don't know if that's going to happen, actually. I mean, we'll see if it does. I mean, I would love to. I would love to work with Ola. I know he's been a big fan of ours for a long time. He's been doing exclusive content for us during like the plugin releases and stuff like that. So I know that we're on good terms with him. I'm not sure about any sort of plugin in the makings or in the works at this point. Can't be allowed to talk about it anyway if there were. So, it is what it is, Madera says, I've been saving up for the ESP Baby Metal 9 string ever since it was announced. I need to see that. I haven't checked that one out yet. Honestly, like, I haven't really been interested in going so far as a 9 string so far. Like, I feel like I've hit my, like, my comfort zone with like a 7 string or like a baritone guitar. I feel like that would be good for my personal style. Obviously I want a 9 string just so I can have it in the collection and just say like, hey, I have a 9 string guitar. Because it looked ridiculous and I love it. I feel like I have played a 9 string though before. It was a buddy's guitar, and I felt like I was immediately swimming through an ocean of strings. Like it was pretty intense. I don't know how Jared Dines played an 18 string guitar. Like that's just fucking ridiculous. First name, last name. What's up, dude? How's it going? Good to see you. my dude with Cyrillic name says, what archetype is for metal? I mean, any of the archetypes could be used for metal. It depends on the style that you want because you have different saturation characteristics, depending on which archetype you go with. I'd say that Nolly is probably the most versatile of the bunch, being able to make a lot of different types of sounds because you have sort of your 5150 sound, you have a British modded kind of sound in that one. With the Pliny, you have another British style. It's your second head, as well as more of like a Friedman-esque sort of style with the third head. Abbasi, that's his tone. Yeah, so I mean, like, any of them could be used for metal. Check out the trial versions of them in case you ever wanted to test them out for yourself. That way you can really get a sense of what's going to fit your style. Because they're all very, very different. They all have their own personalities for sure. Let's see. Scotty Dog says it's been announced that alcohol will be allowed for sale again in South Africa from June 1st. Whoop whoop. It's been like 9 weeks. Tired of my homemade pineapple beer. Ugh. Oh, God. My girlfriend can tell you, I hate the taste of like fake pineapple. Like, you give me like a real pineapple that's like fresh and it's delicious. I love it. But like, dude, oh my God. Somebody gave me a pineapple wine once and it was like one of the worst things I had tasted ever. Not to judge, of course. If you like it, that's awesome, but not for me. Lear says, "Ooh, Hoppus, want." Yeah, dude. So it's kind of funny because this Hoppus guitar was originally just intended to be a loaner. After the NAMM show, they could only carry a handful of the guitars onto the plane. So, whoops, my stand fell apart. But yeah, they could only carry a couple of the guitars onto the plane. So I was like, hey, well, why don't you just let me hang on to this? I'll make some content for it, and then when you find a buyer, which is probably going to be in the States anyway, we'll just ship it from my place. And it's been here ever since, and I've absolutely fallen in love with this guitar. I mean, I love it. It's so good. And I thought, like, for a while, I was like, I'm not digging the Strat body, but I really, really love it. I think the next body style I want will either be a Les Paul style or a Telly style. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I'm gonna buy it. So I just decided, I'm like, you know what? It's mine now. Like, I've played on it for months and it's not going anywhere else. Mr. Kiani asks, did you check whether the Quad Cortex looper is going to be more than one track looper? A 3-track looper would be killer. I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. I still have to ask Francisco about it. It is on my to-do list. It was one of those things where like the FAQ episode is going up this Friday. I'm gonna hang that for more of a personal thing, and just I'll post it up in the Facebook group or address it here on the live stream when we get to it. So yeah, so that'll be answered pretty soon. Yeah, Aaron Willems says, I've been upgrading my CyberPower PC for a bit, lots of goodies, and has been pretty easy to work on. Yeah, and I mean, I did get like the biggest case for it, so there's a lot of room to work in, so even an idiot like myself could make the adjustments should I need to. But I definitely will probably hire somebody to do it because, as I said, I'm an idiot. So I'm looking forward to getting something that's more stable. You know, it's really frustrating to be working on a project and then all of a sudden, like, all of your drives detach and reattach for some god-awful reason, and then, like, have to reboot the entire system. It just really kind of, like, kills momentum. Screwtape asks, would you recommend an FR cab, like a mission engineering cab for using the Quad Cortex Live? What cab would you recommend? So for those who don't know, an FR is a flat response field something or other. It's basically a monitors for your stage. If they are powered, then sure, yeah, why not? Um, I mean, like, it's up to you. You know, the quad cortex is going to be flexible enough for you to either have it as just a standalone where you have your board and then you have the outputs to the front of house. You could have two outputs going to your FR cab, and then the other two going to front of house. So there's like four inputs, four outputs. It's very, very versatile. I would definitely look into it. It could be good unless you have a cab that you particularly enjoy, which, you know, that's absolutely possible because you could run a system that's the quad cortex into a power amp, and then from the power amp to your cabinet. I mean, like that's absolutely an option to consider, especially if you have a cabinet that you really like the sound of. Because like I have a Mesa Boogie cabinet. I sold my dual rectifier recently, but I haven't sold my my Mesa Boogie because I could still use that live. I like having a cabinet next to me so that way I can kind of monitor myself. Because I don't trust front of house all the time. You know, love my bros in front of house, but like there's a couple of venues I've played at in the past around like Sacramento, Vacaville area where it's just like those dudes are just collecting a paycheck and that's it. So it is what it is. Anyway, I got off on a tangent right there. Let's go ahead and scroll through the... What's up, Tyler Britton? How's it going, dude? Good to see you in the chat, man. Yeah, Diego Perez says, I have the Archetype Abbasi, and I think that's very versatile. It is. It is. That first head is fantastic with the blend knob. Like, I love the ability to add the piezo guitar to your signal. It sounds really, really cool, and I love the dynamics you can get with that. Colton Chapman. Okay, so this is a question that kind of gets... This is a good question. Colton Chapman asks, any tips, examples on choosing an impulse response in the Archetype Nolly to help an arpeggiated clean guitar cut through the mix that also includes heavy rhythms, octave layers, looking to get it right at the source before mixing? Okay, so there's a couple of different things that you can do, obviously. So like impulse responses, I generally always pick an impulse response in the context of a mix. I'm sure that people have probably seen me do this already. They've probably seen it in a couple of videos where I'll have the full mix going. Actually, you know what? Hang on a second. I think I can actually just answer your question with this. Okay. All right. And I do. Let's see. All right. I'm just opening up my most recent session, which has a Summit lead, is a tremolo picked guitar part, and it has the Archetype Nolly on it. So I'm going to go through and kind of figure out what impulse response I want to use, because I was actually working on it earlier this afternoon. I wasn't super happy with it, so I was going to come back to it. So here we are. Just getting everything in the session set up. Go back to chat real quick and just make sure. Nice. Marshall says, hello from beautiful Northeast Oregon. Neural DSP has been working magnificently with several low gain recordings in the recent weeks with songwriting covering tunes. Hell yeah, dude. I think it's kind of funny because we've built up the stigma of being a metal company. Which is not entirely true. There are pretty much any of the amp sims can be used for clean or low gain tones, except for maybe the third head in the Archetype Abbasi, right? Like there's a couple of them that are like made specifically for high gain lead stuff, but there's a ton of options for low gain settings, and I'm glad to see that you're enjoying those. Ooh, Madera, also a good question. Says, I was wondering, are the Dark Glass Ultra and the Parallax good to be used together, or is it more either or? That is another example I can use in this exact track. Okay, so those of you who tuned in last week know that my I am doing. Let me make sure that this is not going to blow your guys' ears out, because I'm just nice like that. That's a 23.5. Just gonna do this. Sorry, guys. Okay. Something's going on with this. Oh, here we go. Nope, that should be great. Yep. That's what you get for doing this stuff on the fly. Okay, here we go. What was I talking about? I was talking about the lead guitars. Here they are. Okay. So I'm doing an artist tones on the new periphery. And I have this lead here. Right. Supplied by the talented Joao Medeiros. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Joao is the guitar player here, and I'm using the Archetype Nolly. Now, I've kind of settled on the Dynamic 57 by itself. But generally, the way that I would go about this is I would... Well, here's how I would do it. Let's just start with this in default mode. Doot. Because it's usually the Dynamic 57, I think, when you open it up. Anyway, I'll loop some measures so that way I can kind of like have a consistent sound going. Okay, so to break down exactly what I just did is I started off with my Dynamic 57 in its default position. What I did was I took then my arrows and just scrolled through the different impulse responses that are available. So I went 57, 421, 414, 160, and kind of just cycled through those. And then listen for the changes in the characteristics and what allowed it to kind of pop out of the mix. What I noticed was the 57 and the 421 both were brighter and allowed it to stand out from the mix, which was nice. The 414 was a little too round for my taste and kind of dark, right? So like the 414 is generally not used for the main microphone in a lot of senses with like metal. Like 57 is like a standard. The 160 was okay, but it wasn't cutting through quite enough. But it had a nice kind of like mid-rangey sound that I do like. That the 414 was a little bit more, like it was a little bit too mid-range. So I went back to the 57, 421, and deciding between those two. The 421 was a little too scratchy. Like, it's not scratchy, but it's like it's accenting a frequency spectrum that I'm not a particular fan of. So the 57 was bright enough to cut through, but didn't really, like it still fit within the mix. Then after that, I tried to add an additional one. Like I said, I liked the 160's mid-range, but it didn't cut through quite enough. So I used this 160 to accentuate the mid-range of the 57. With those two working in tandem, I feel like I have a good sound that is well-balanced, but also fits in the mix. But that's generally the way that I go about that. And then to address Madera's question, he asked if you could use parallax and dark glass in the same instance, or whether you should just use them separately. And I use them in tandem, actually. In the same sense, I will use this. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear that without blowing out your ears when I start talking. So I have the parallax on one bus, and then I have the dark glass on the other. Now I don't have the impulse responses on the dark glass because that tends to get a little too dark, and that definition kind of goes away. But what I'll do is I'll mute between the two so you can hear what is what. I do have a high pass and a couple of like EQ moves on the dark glass just to make sure that it sits. Basically, what I want to do is I want to have the super stable low end of the parallax rolling through the mix. And then what I do is I high pass the low end of the dark glass, so that way that inconsistency of the second bus doesn't affect the first bus. There are some like phase issues occasionally that might crop up if you're running a really heavy session. I did speak about this during one of my recent videos. That's something to be aware of, because what happens is you have sample delay. There's a certain amount of time that a plugin takes to process the sound, and if you're taking the same signal, putting it through two different plugins, you could potentially have different sample delays between them. I think that Pro Tools, I literally never look at this particular window. But you have delay compensation down here, and there's generally going to be like different amounts of compensation depending on what your plugins are, like 115, 16,000, 16, 8,000, 8,300. Yeah, so that's going to definitely affect the plugins. So use your ears. Make sure that you understand what to listen for when it comes to phase. But anyway, here are the two buses by themselves. So like this is them together. All right, and this is without dark glass. Like, honestly, that dark glass sound by itself sounds like dog shit. I mean, like, that's... But when added to the girth of the parallax, like, it really complements that sound. So again, I'm just using the dark glass on the B7U setting. The drive's up, the grunt's up, like, these are my settings. But I'm using it to accentuate a certain area of the bass, so that way the bass and the guitars really kind of mesh together. Okay. Back to the front. Back to the front. Some Sepultura. Let's see. Rowland Lima says, I finally got the Toast and Abbasi DSP and love it. Soon I will have Fluence Abbasi pickups in my RG7421. And I'm using this, will be very cool. Nice, dude. Congratulations. I think the 7421, that's a 7-string, I'm pretty sure. Ibanez, I think. But that's awesome, man. I love the Fishman Fluence. One of the reasons why I like this Hoppus guitar so much is that the Fishman, or their custom pickups are very bright, similar to the Fishman styles. Matthias Ganster says the face I make when the dark glass is turned off. Yeah. I feel it, man. So yeah, Matthias says I never notice when I have too much mid range in the mix. Only when I listen back to the mix a couple of days later. Dude, like honestly, taking breaks is one of the best things that you could do for yourself as a mixer. I know me personally. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm working on a project and I'm really getting into it, I could just lose myself for hours, and just tweak on things for forever. But the problem with that is that your ears get your ears are sensitive to specific frequencies, usually in the presence areas. So that's you sensory adaptation starts to kick in, and you'll start to be less sensitive to frequencies. So like that sort of mid range that like it sounds like my mix is being covered up by a pillow becomes normal to you. Like that EQ curve starts to become normal to you, and taking like 15-20 minute breaks at like hour intervals or 2 hour intervals is always going to be a good choice. I try to do that as much as possible. But yeah, no, I feel that. Devin West. Yeah, okay. So he says, I'm totally blind and need accessibility in the quad cortex. The desktop editor and touchscreen don't talk when activated. What can I do to get accessibility on the docket? It's obviously a little more complex, but 200 characters. So Devin, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I would probably email support and let them know that you have this issue, and I'm sure support will ring it up the flagpole. Because definitely we want to make sure that you are taken care of for sure. All right, let me scroll back up through the chat real quick. Right. Colton Chapman follows up with, we were talking about impulse responses, and he says, nice, should also mention the arrangement works great, so off to a good start there. Just wanting to limit option paralysis as much as possible, so this should be helpful. Yeah, dude. I tend to not give myself a whole lot of time when rolling through impulse responses. You saw how quickly I went through, because the more you listen to it, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, the more you listen to it, the more used to the EQ curve you're going to be. So hopping between options pretty quickly so your ears can really hear the difference between them is always going to help you out. And learning to trust your gut and your experience is also it's going to take time, but that's ultimately the goal that you want to have. Like, there's a reason why I haven't really dug into a whole lot of cab packs. Like people have been asking me a bunch recently about the GGD Zilla cabs or the Jens Bogren stuff. And I'm going to try those out at some point. But there's sort of a freedom to limitations. And what I mean by that is that, like, I have these options in front of me. Like with the Archetype Nolly, you have 4 microphones to choose from. And you got bright, dark, mid-range. It's like, I mean, I'm generalizing, of course, but like, it's like, okay, I have these 4 options. How can I make the best with these 4 options? And I feel like in that sense, it helps me make decisions way faster, because I'm on the clock, like, constantly. Like, making content for a company that has a schedule is very, very different than making content for yourself or your own YouTube channel. Where, like, with my own channel, I'd be like, I could probably put out like a video a month or one every other week or something like that. And then, like, I would allow myself a little bit of flexibility if I feel that I want to, spend more time on something, or an extra day, or maybe I forgot to do something. But no, with like Neural DSP, I have a deadline. I have expectations that I need to meet. So I need to be very, very quick with my decision making, and I need to be able to make decisions off the cuff and then commit to them, so that way I can just make things work. And in doing that, it's actually made me a better mixer overall. Like, I feel if you go back and listen to like the first handful of videos that I did for Neural DSP and the stuff that I'm doing now, like that in itself has helped me so much in my critical listening and instincts and experience. So yeah. Yeah, Matthias. Okay, so Lear says, I tend to test mix my mixes in my car. Normally there's too much bass and not enough high end on the guitar. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I haven't actually test mixed in my vehicle in a long, long time. I generally just I'm comfortable and I know my speakers well enough that I'm pretty happy with being able to have that. Um, but yeah, like I've spent enough time in front of my monitors that I know how they're supposed to sound. I also am pretty like comfortable looking at an EQ spectrum and knowing when things are balanced and when they're not. And again, that's sort of just experience and just time. All right, let's go ahead and scroll back up in the chat. Andre Ivan says, "Isn't it interesting how we fall in love with some plugins and gather on a live to enjoy as a group these gifts from the gods? We people are weird." Smokes NTS. Hey man, I mean like I'm here to help. You know, it's like you guys got questions, I got answers most of the time. I do my best. And yeah, if you guys just want to talk about how cool the plugins are, I'm also cool to do that too. You know, there's no real rules to this particular Q&A, which is a lot of fun for me because then I get to just roll with it. All right. Sencha Yellow asks, any advice on using pedals in front of Neural DSP plugins? And I'm guessing that you're talking about physical pedals. Um, to be honest, I haven't really dug into that a whole heck of a lot. Yeah, Mr. Kiami says, all my pedals sound killer, fuzz, distortion, overdrive, freak out, delay. Yeah. So I'm gonna guess you're talking about physical models rather than digital ones because the digital ones are easy to set up. It's just open your DAW, make your signal chain, and then go. I mean, like I would approach it the same as any other sort of any of the other sort of ways. Is just make sure that you're not clipping on your input. Um, I don't know. Like I have a hard time. Like I spoke a few seconds ago about committing to tones and things like that. Um, a pristine DI is priceless. Um, Especially if you are mixing somebody else's song, especially if you are creating your own track and you don't want to have to backtrack. Having a pristine DI on hand is always great. So if you have the ability to like use a DI box and split your signal into two, so you can have a clean DI and then you hear like overdrive or something like that. Um, I would obviously recommend doing that so you can always go back and redo things should you absolutely need to. Um, yeah. Michael D says only one rule: keep the chat clean. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. No. I want to make sure that this is a good, positive environment for people to come and hang out. Obviously, this is. I mean, like this kind of has built its own like community in here, which I really love. Yeah, Devin West is replies to Sencha. I've had good luck with physical pedals, and yeah, actually, I do have I have the precision drive, and I've been meaning to test that out. Actually, just haven't really had the use for it. Although stupidly, I just realized I'm working on a Periphery song, and I should probably try out the precision drive on fucking Periphery. Ah, gosh. Okay. Yeah, I'll try it out. We'll see what it sounds like. I don't know. Oh man. Do you ever just get so tired and then you have like realizations and it's just kind of like, oh man, I'm angry that I didn't think about that before. All right. Ancient Mariner says, I asked this a while ago, but haven't heard much solving the issue. My DI is too dark before even hitting the plugins. I got a DI box which resolved the clipping issues, but the DI is still too dark. Question. Do you have the same problem with different guitars? And I'm sure that probably somebody else has already asked this question, so like it's a pretty obvious thing where you have, is your source set up to be as bright as possible? Because that could be a conversion thing as well. It could be that the, preamps in your interface are not working correctly. So like, think about it like different components of the signal chain, and you have to test each one to make sure it's all functioning properly. So like, is it the one guitar or is it multiple guitars that sound too dark? If it's only one guitar and your other guitars are fine, then the guitar is the problem. If you have all of your guitars are too dark, next test the cable. See if your cable is busted, see if the connection is right. If you switch out cables and the problem is still there, might be your interface. If the problem is gone when you switch out the cable, then it's the cable, right? So like it's a process of elimination. I mean, I think I'm wondering if you've posted in the Facebook group. Okay, yeah. So Ancient Mariner is replying, says mostly, yeah, I've tried it on my Ibanez and ESP, both too dark for some reason. Yeah, Tyler Britton says, like, for me, it's not like I'm doing a periphery cover or anything. Wait, shit. Yes, I had that oh shit moment. Yeah, Devin West, that's a good question. Is it an instance of every amplifier, or is it is it every plugin, or is it just a singular plugin? That's the next question. So yeah, that's the way that I would eliminate these problems. Is just like if you said that both guitars are too dark. So now it's a process of elimination, trying to figure out where in the signal chain your signal is getting muddied up. So yeah, post it up in the Facebook as you continue to figure out where your problem is. Yeah, Matthias says investing a couple of bucks more into a good cable is worth the money. Yeah, absolutely. Seba, what's up, dude? Seba says you can share presets in our forum at the moment, unity.neuraldsp.com. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but unity.neuraldsp.com is our own personal website for uploading and collecting plugin presets. A bunch of mine are already up there as well. So yeah, go for it. Okay, so Ancient Mariner says, no, I mean, even before hitting the amp, just the DI. Huh. I don't know, man. Tyler says, oh shit is my signature move. I feel it, man. I feel it. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back up through the comments and see if I missed anything. Patient Mental asks, why does Cubist overload when using the cap IRs on the Kali? I believe that's being addressed in an update. But if you are having problems, always address support@neuraldsp.com, and they'll keep you apprised of the situation. They'll work you through any sort of workarounds they could potentially help with as well. Andre says, speaking about darkness, do Archetype Plugins consume more resources? All Fortin plugins sound fantastic on my laptop, but for some reason, Nolly, Abbasi, and Omega sounds very muddy and bassy. That's interesting. I don't believe that they do consume more resources, because it's not like they're utilizing, like the Nolly isn't utilizing all 4 heads at once. It's all one section being used at a time. But considering that he has I don't think so. If they sound muddy and bassy, it's probably just the different characteristics of the plugins. Here's what I would suggest trying out to see if it's the plugins or not, is that because I know for me the impulse responses in some of these are a lot darker than others. Like the Nolly, the Plini and the Nolly tend to be a little bit darker impulse responses for some reason, just the way that they were captured or whatever. So I generally tend to have to brighten some up more than others. Like the Fortin Kali is pretty good on its own, as well as like the Nameless. The Nameless is pretty bright right off the bat. So I don't really have to do anything to that one, but I do find myself having to brighten up the Plini, as well as the Nolly, and maybe a little bit as well the Abbasi. But the best thing about that though, and I think even I think Nolly just put out a video about the glue blob on a speaker cone, and how at first glance, whenever he's listening to it, it's a little bit darker than he initially likes. Like when he's listening to a solo guitar tone, it's like he likes the sound of like a 57. Put it over the glue blob, and it tends to kind of get a little bit darker than normal in that position, right? And at first glance, he thought, oh, this is probably not going to work in the mix because it's not as bright as my ear would want it to be. But then hearing it actually in context of the mix, it's like you have those stacking frequencies, and then everything starts to kind of like mellow out. Because in those the 57 in the other position is just like you stack up the presence frequencies too much and it becomes too bright. So I would definitely mess around with the impulse responses in the mix rather than just solo and judging in that way. So, all right. Yeah, Sencha says the Abbasi seems really bassy in general. That's why they had the bassy, like the tight knob on it. That one's pretty cool. Let's see. Just reading through the comments right now. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm seeing some people replying to Ancient Mariner. The pickup height does affect your tone pretty dramatically. Spoofitch replied, I get them close to around a 1/4 inch from the string and then work them back down to adjust to taste. Yeah, like a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more, because like it depends on how heavy your right hand is, because obviously you don't want your string to crash into the pickup. But yeah, definitely try that out. That usually tends to work. Jean Borges says, how many goats do I have to sacrifice to get a Merrill artist tones? Well, I like goats, so don't sacrifice any, and we'll be good. I don't know if we're in talks with him or not. Let's see. All right. Stala says, I hope I'm not too late to the party. Dude, we're hanging out, man. That's, got like 10, 15, 20 more minutes, just hanging out, just answering some questions. Sencha Yellow says, still haven't explored the Abbasi enough to say anything definitive, but I am having really big trouble trying to get a Steven Taranto Helix Nebula sound. Nice. Well, maybe that's something I can explore in the next artist tones. We'll see. I'll add that to the list. The list is long now, guys. It's pretty ridiculous. Can't spend the money on the NTS right now, though. No, I feel that. So the other plugin that would be similar to the NTS that is also good if you're looking for that sort of like 6L6 kind of Mesa E tone, I would try out the Granifier. Yeah, if you can. I mean, do the trial, whatever you need to do. Let's see. Well, we're getting to the last last 10 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and put in a call for last questions. Interesting. Rowland says, clean tones were amazing with the Archetype Abbasi, but were a bit buzzing at first. I had to turn down my guitar volume, then it worked awesomely. Well, I wonder if it's just a matter of like different pickup types reacting differently to the plugins. Because as we all know, Abbasi generally uses the Fishman pickups, which have their specific sort of tone. So if you have something different than the Fishman Fluence, they might actually react differently. No, that's actually a really good thing. Because I've seen it happen. I've seen it pop up a couple of times in the Facebook group. So might be my suggestion from here on to those people who are having issues with that. So thanks, man. Appreciate that. Matthias says, easy solution for your artist tones list. Delete everything and put Russian circles on it 10 times. Rowland Lemus asks, John Petrucci tone. I used my Sonic Ecstasy and DiMarzio. Russian circles is on my list. So Russian circles is on my list. There's a bunch of people on my list. It's just a matter of like what I feel is going to be the most useful, interesting, entertaining on the channel. Because I've actually been considering what else I want to do with the channel. Or even if I want to change the formula of the artist tone stuff, because I've been enjoying doing that, but I don't want it to get too formulaic. I don't want it to get too run of the mill. So I actually have a handful of artists I'm going to be working with very soon to make some collaborations with. So I'm super stoked on that. Let's see. Lear says, does anyone know of any generally well-known bands that have used Neural DSP plugins to record an album? So, honestly, the easiest way to do this is to go to the Neural DSP website, look up the artist, and you'll see a list of like engineers and producers who have used our stuff. So you look at somebody like Buster Odelholm. He's used our stuff. Forrester Savell has used our stuff. Dave Otero used the Archetype Plini on their most recent Cattle Decapitation album. Yeah, he loved the Plini when it came out, so he just slapped that on a couple of the leads and was just like, well, there's the tone. But yeah. Yeah, that's super useful information. Stala says sometimes you just have to adjust the output on the plugin to clean it up. The input, yeah. I think you meant input. Input of the plugin to clean it up, especially the Plini plugin. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the first places I go to when dialing in a plugin is just like, how much of the signal do I want or don't want? Like, sometimes I'll use the the Fortin hex drive. I'll use that to lower the input and output from the pedal into the head. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Awesome, man. Thank you. Matthias says, dude, whatever artist you choose, I always enjoy your videos no matter who it is. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So Senchi Yellow says the Helix Nebula used NTS for the Seas of Suns, and also I think for the Stefan Taranto solo album. Nice, dude. Awesome. Well, there you go. Easy peasy. Rowland says, I had someone talking to me to add to my question, and I was trying to ask what is the best DSP for John Petrucci tones. He uses the Mesa Boogie Mark V's, if I remember correctly. I think that's it. But yeah, so he follows up. Yeah, so I would say the first ones I am kind of drawn to say to check out. The Granifier, the NTS, those would be my first two. I would try those first to see how you go. Oh, okay. So Andre Ivan asks a good question. There's no such thing as a noob question. Well, I mean, like, because you're beginning and you're asking the basic question, but that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad question. So he says, probably a new question, sorry, but what is the difference between plugins output and a track's volume? If I want to turn the volume down for my guitar track, what should I turn down between those two? Those two are interchangeable. Okay, so the output of the plugin, now, okay, let me back up real quick. I'll pull up the... pull up the session that I'm working on. Because the thing is, you want to avoid clipping, right? So that's generally one of the things, like, I have, like, I'll just play these two guitars for you. Now, taking your output knob and turning it down or up is not going to affect your tone until you start clipping. Now, it does have a hard output level, right? So, like, if I turn it up this much, it's probably going to... Apologies for that. But once you hit that gray indicator at the top there, that's when you're clipping, and that's when you're actually starting to do damage to the signal going out of the plugin. So what I generally tend to do is get this as close to the highest as I can, or maybe just usually just 0 is fine for me. And then I'll start messing around with the track volume. So, like, it's just a matter of, like, if you think about it like the flow of water, right? Like, you have, like, your signal flow, and you have your signal coming from the input into the plugin, being processed down the line, and then hitting your output, right? You have a cap at the end of your output, so that way you can't go past a certain level, because then, again, you start clipping it, it starts distorting the signal in a way that's not generally desired, right? And then from there, you can start boosting the output from here up or down. And again, like, that'll be up to taste on where they sit in the mix. But generally what I usually do is I usually keep my output at 0. That leaves it around where I need it to be. If I need to, I can always back it off a couple of dB from here, because I don't, it's sort of a personal preference on how much you want to automate your tracks, right? So, like, what I use for Pro Tools, I'll use my track volume to do automations. So, like, if I want it to do, this section a little bit, down, this section is a little bit, like, a dB and a half right there, just to, like, pop something out. I like doing that with the overall guitar volume, right? So I'll leave those as is. So I usually do a lot of the automation on the track volume, and then just have my overall output here. If you need to, there are also track control, plugins. So let's see, track. Yeah, okay, track control. Great. This is from DMG Audio. I got this for free. Basically all this is just input output, and then a couple of, like, additional, like, high pass frequencies, and then sample delay, phase invert, that sort of stuff. Pretty simple stuff. But from here, this is where you could then, boost the output of your signal. So if you wanted to make this louder, so then you could use that to your advantage of, getting your overall levels set, and then doing these small automation moves on the track itself. That's generally the way that I approach it. So, like, you see, I haven't done any automations whatsoever on this particular mix. I only just finished recording it yesterday. So, so yeah, that's where we at, man. All right, let's go back to the face, to chat. Okay. Stala says, I'm not a well-known recording artist or producer. I have used Neural DSP on my own singles and on a couple of other artists that I'm producing right now, and it sounds wicked. Great, dude. I'm glad to hear that. Honestly, like, I really think that these are some of the best plugins out there for guitar tones. I'm super stoked on them. I think that the level of quality that they're putting out is only going to get better as well. So, we're sitting really pretty. I mean, honestly, this is the golden age for a lot of, like, the entry level engineers and producers, because we now have access to things that maybe 5 years ago were not a thing, right? So it's really awesome to see that. Let's see. I'm gonna go scroll back through the. Oh, scroll back through. I'm seeing this. Okay, yeah. John McDaniel. Seba answered your question. Yeah. Seba answered the question, but I'll kind of reiterate for everybody else as well. So he asks, is there a way to edit and then save a preset and keep that tone in the preset folder it came in? It always moves to the user folder on me. Thanks, man. Unfortunately not. You can customize the user folders. So if you say, for instance, you downloaded a bunch of my presets and wanted a nice little Stephen Ward folder, you can actually create that. So I will just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so make sure that I changed. So I'm like so paranoid of that nowadays. I have to like make sure that my scene changes. So that way I'm just not talking out of context. But yeah, so as Seba mentioned, you could take this magnifying glass and this will open the folder to your presets. So if you wanted to, you could go to artists. So I don't have any in here. You could just go Shift N, Stephen Ward, and then you can put all of your presets in, all of my presets in there. So that way you have them in one spot. If you adjust or change any of them, they will go back to the user folder, and then you have to put them back into, the previous one. Should you choose to do that? So you can do a lot of interesting customizations with these folders, but every time you save a preset, it will go back to the user folder. So if you do that and you have like, I was actually thinking about this the other day as, somebody who could potentially gig at some point in the future, I would want to go, user, and then I would want to go song 1, and then have all my user presets for that one song in here. So that way I can just roll through my presets and have them kind of ordered in a specific way. So that way I don't have to worry about finding like, okay, I need to go to Opeth Start, and then I need to go to Mesa Cleans, and then I need to go Meshuggah Start, like, I don't necessarily need to do that. I can just set that up in individual folders. So it is customizable, but every time you save one, you do have to put it does go by default to the user folder. So unfortunately, it doesn't have that level of flexibility from the interface itself, but you can build that in yourself. All right. Go back to the chat. Let's see. All right, rolling through the... David Gutierrez asks, QC giveaway, LOL, question mark. Would love to pre-order, but can't afford. Save up, man. I mean, we're not going anywhere, and it's not like the QC is going to get taken off the market anytime soon. So, like, it's going to be there for you. It's just a matter of putting away enough money to get the pre-order, or just save up for it outright, Like, it's worth the investment. To me, like, even if I wasn't working for Neural DSP, like, that would be something on my, like, to-get list, for sure. Yeah, John McDaniel says, that's not a big deal by any means. I just need to go in and organize my folders once in a while. Thanks, guys. Yeah, man, it's worth the time to invest in doing that, especially if you're gigging, or you, like, want to have your folders, like, in a very specific order. Okay. Like, for instance, I'm going to show you something real quick. Like, I saw this the other day and I was like, oh, fuck, I need to go and clean this shit up. Because I look at my archetype nollie, and you go to users. Holy shit, there's a lot. like, goddamn, it's annoying to have to try and go through all of this stuff. So if I was to want to go in, I would still probably have them all on my users, but I would go, okay, so these are all my Delphian tones. These are my Nolly V Pliny tones. These are my Opeth tones. Like, I would try and organize them, but like, after a while of using these plugins so often, you're gonna want to try and make sure to keep things clean and organized. So yeah, so it's a thing, dude. Like, I can't stand an unorganized workspace. It's the worst. Christian asks, could you briefly explain the differences between Note, CC, PC, MIDI commands, and the ways they are beneficial in different scenarios? Thanks. Okay, so they're gonna work interchangeably for the most part. The only thing, so like I would say that like Note CC, Note and PC messages are going to react pretty much exactly the same, right? Because you're just sending a specific note or a specific program change message to the plugin to go between, presets or turning a pedal on and off, right? So it depends on the certain circumstances that you want to utilize. However, the only thing that's going to be probably different is the CC Absolute, and when you start working with expression pedals, right? So expression pedals, you can, swell your volume or mute the output or whatever with just a flick of your expression pedal. So like that's CC Absolute, because that's going between a value of like I think it's 1 and 127 or something like that. Anyway, so program change, note messages, they're all pretty much going to react similarly. Yeah, Seba responded to it beautifully in the comments. He says it depends on the command types. Actually, Stephen uploaded a couple of videos about it. Take a look at them. I got some pretty in-depth stuff going there in the videos. But yeah, just to answer very quickly, the PC and the notes are going to act very similar. The CC messages are also going to act similarly. Depends on the context. CC Absolute is probably going to be the most different between the other ones, because that's going to be actually controlling specific value sets. But yeah, so it depends. But check out the videos, see what you think. It is worth your time to investigate and to experiment with different setups. So yeah, it also depends on the MIDI controller you're using as well, because the Fortin Hydra that I had for one of the videos only sends program change messages. So yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. Madera asks, I don't remember if I asked this question already, but I kind of have a weird question. Do you have any good ideas, recommendations on what I could do as a bachelor's major project for an audio engineering degree? That's a very interesting question. Okay, so you're getting your audio engineering degree, and you're looking to see what type of project would be interesting. You know what I've always loved? What I've always loved is the videos and the little clips of people taking everyday sounds, like being able to engineer everyday sounds to work within a fully produced like pop, rock, or like hip hop, lo-fi, whatever, a fully produced song. Because people tend to, want to get the new pack, right? They want to go, they want to buy the new sound sample pack from whatever, name your company, right? But the thing is that if people spent the time to understand, the tools at hand, like compressor, limiter, saturator, distortion, EQs, like reverbs, delays, like if people took the time to really understand how, like, their toolbox, they would realize that they could create those things for themselves. And I think that might be a really interesting thing. It's just like there would obviously have to be like a video link to it or whatever. Like that could be part of your project. It's like I took these household item sounds and made a fully produced song out of it, because you're engineering the audio like fully from scratch. It's like, hey, this was the sound of my toilet flushing or whatever, like listen to how interesting it is when you do this, that, or the other. I think that would be really fascinating. Run it by your instructors first, of course. But I think that would be really, really cool. And it allows you to do something fun and creative in the process of doing a school project, which I've always loved those teachers who allow you to mix and mingle those sorts of things. Like one of my teachers in college let me do it was a research paper on the social implications of the zombie phenomenon, like why zombies are so present in films and movies and TV shows. Like she let me do a full research project on it, and it was like 10-12 pages, I think. It was dope. It was so much fun. I loved it. Anyway, so Yeah, no worries, man. He says that's actually pretty interesting. Thanks. Yeah, hopefully that helps. Andre Ivan says, forget about the instructors. Flushing toilet sample it is. Yeah, dude. I might try that at some point. It might be interesting. All right. Mr. Kiani asks, is there a limit to how many characters you can use when naming a preset? That's a good question. Let me look. I'm going to save this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's a lot. There's no limit. Not that I'm seeing. I just pressed A like a fuckload, and it just let me scroll on through. Yeah, dude, you're good. I like if you hit character limit in this by that point, like you might be doing something wrong. But yeah, no, you're good on that. Okay. Madera says if they say no, I'll flush their answer down the toilet. Nice, dude. Nice. Seba says 164 characters allowed. Yes, I did during my testings. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. So let's go ahead and, again, let's go ahead and put in for last questions. If you guys something pressing that you wanna ask, we'll address it very quickly. Otherwise, I'm gonna call it a day and turn on the AC because it's getting very warm in here. Sean Borges says it's a lot. Lol. All right. Oh man. It's starting to become summertime in LA. It's going to start getting real warm real fast. All right. So, okay. Let's just call it a week. It's about 2:15. So, want to thank you guys again for coming and hanging out. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Nuke Proof says, I'm running an 8-string with Fishman Moderns, but can't seem to dial in a good thump tone with Archetype Abbasi. Help. Have you tried going through the Tosin presets? Then from there, try out changing the inputs and outputs. Well, try changing the inputs to see what the input gain, how the input gain affects the amplifier. Yeah, first name, last name says preset inner assassins worked for me. You know what? So, Tosin actually used my laptop during his performances at the NAMM show. So I still have his presets. So later on, maybe today or tomorrow, I'll actually take his presets and post them up in the Facebook group. So you guys can have them as well. Yeah, because he actually like dialed in the tones a bunch more like before his performance. So, but yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we'll go ahead and call it a day from here. Thank you all so much for hanging out. As always, this is one of my favorite things to do during the week. I look forward to it every week. You guys are amazing, and I really hope that you all have a great week. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.